So you actually believed Jey Uso was free? You genuinely thought WWE would let one of their most emotionally compelling stories have a happy ending? Think again. Because Roman Reigns just made a move on Raw that exposes the ugly truth: Jey Uso was never liberated. He was just on a leash that got temporarily longer. And now, the tribal chief is yanking that chain so hard, it might snap Jey's neck in the process. Let me be brutally honest about what we witnessed. When Jey Uso returned to Raw, fans celebrated like it was a liberation story. The abused family member finally breaking free from his manipulative cousin. The underdog finding his own identity. The feel-good moment wrestling desperately needed. But if you actually believe WWE was going to let that story breathe, you don't understand how this company operates. They don't do liberation narratives. They do manipulation, control, and psychological torture disguised as family drama. Roman Reigns' recent actions suggest something that should terrify every Jey Uso fan: the tribal chief isn't done with his cousin. Not even close. In fact, there's mounting evidence that Roman is actively orchestrating circumstances that will force Jey back into the darkness he fought so hard to escape. And the most sinister part? Roman isn't using violence this time. He's using something far more effective: guilt, family obligation, and the one thing Jey can never escape: bloodline loyalty. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes, and why it's so brilliantly evil it makes your skin crawl. Roman Reigns understands that you can't just beat Jey Uso into submission anymore. The audience has seen that story. They've watched Jey get super kicked, manipulated, and emotionally destroyed for years. Doing it again would be repetitive. So Roman's evolved his strategy. Instead of forcing Jey to acknowledge him, he's creating situations where Jey will voluntarily return to the bloodline. Not because he's scared, because he feels responsible. Think about Roman's recent behavior on SmackDown and how it connects to Jey's Raw presence. The tribal chief has been systematically dismantling everything around him, creating chaos, and positioning himself as someone who needs family support despite pushing everyone away. It's psychological warfare disguised as vulnerability. Roman is making Jey watch from Raw as the bloodline crumbles, knowing that Jey's protective instincts will eventually overpower his desire for independence. But here's where it gets truly diabolical. Roman isn't just trying to bring Jey back to the bloodline. He's engineering circumstances that will force Jey to turn heel in the process. Not the sympathetic, reluctant heel Jey was before. We're talking full villain turn. The kind of heel turn that burns every bridge Jey built with the WWE Universe. The kind that makes fans who cheered his liberation story feel betrayed and angry. How is Roman accomplishing this? By putting Jey in impossible situations where the only way to protect family is to become the monster he swore he'd never be again. It's manipulation at the Grandmaster level. Roman knows that Jey's greatest strength, his loyalty, is also his greatest weakness. And he's exploiting that weakness with surgical precision. Look at the timeline and tell me this isn't calculated. Jey moves to Raw, starts building positive momentum, connecting with fans, establishing himself as a babyface the audience genuinely supports. Meanwhile, on SmackDown, Roman's empire shows cracks. Solo Siko's rising, Jimmy's torn, the bloodlines fracturing, and Roman? He's watching Jey from across the brand split, knowing exactly how to pull his cousin back into orbit when the timing's perfect. The shocking Raw return everyone's talking about wasn't just Jey coming back to television. It was the beginning of Roman's endgame. Every interaction, every segment, every moment of Jey looking conflicted on camera is breadcrumbs leading to the inevitable conclusion: Jey Uso turns heel, rejoins the bloodline, and completes his transformation into the very thing he fought to escape. What makes this potential storyline so infuriating is that WWE is about to undo years of character development for cheap heat and continued Roman dominance. They built Jey's liberation story beautifully. Fans invested emotionally in his journey from abuse victim to independent star. And now, WWE's preparing to tell those fans that freedom was an illusion, that you can never truly escape your family's toxicity, that abuse victims always return to their abusers. It's not just bad storytelling, it's psychologically damaging messaging. But WWE doesn't care about that, do they? They care about keeping Roman Reigns strong. They care about maintaining the bloodline as their top storyline regardless of how repetitive it becomes. They care about shock value over substance. So they'll sacrifice Jey's character development, they'll undermine his babyface momentum, and they'll turn him heel because it serves Roman's narrative. Not because it makes sense for Jey. Because it benefits the tribal chief. Let's talk about what this heel turn might actually look like, because the specifics matter. Based on current trajectories and backstage reports, WWE is likely building toward a scenario where Jey is forced to choose between helping Roman or watching his family destroy itself. Maybe Jimmy gets hurt. Maybe Solo goes too far. Maybe Roman himself gets backed into a corner where only Jey can save him. Whatever the trigger, it'll be designed to make Jey's heel turn feel inevitable rather than chosen. The brilliance, and I use that word with maximum disgust, is that WWE will position this turn as Jey's fault. not Roman's manipulation, not the company's creative bankruptcy. They'll make it seem like Jey couldn't resist the pull of family, couldn't overcome his programming, couldn't truly be free. And fans who supported his liberation journey will feel betrayed, which creates nuclear heat. That's the goal. Maximum emotional damage for maximum engagement. Here's what really makes this situation rage-inducing: it didn't have to be this way. WWE could have let Jey succeed as a babyface. They could have told a redemption story where someone actually escapes their abuser and builds a better life. They could have given fans a positive message instead of cynical manipulation. But that doesn't serve Roman Reigns' never-ending reign of dominance, so it's not happening. Think about the message this sends to anyone who's ever dealt with family toxicity or abusive relationships. You can fight back. You can get away. You can start fresh. But eventually, your abuser will find a way to drag you back. Family obligation will overpower personal well-being. The cycle continues forever. Is that really what WWE wants to say? Because that's exactly what a Jey Uso heel turn says, whether they intend it or not. The Raw return that everyone celebrated might actually be the beginning of Jey's darkest chapter. Not because he's choosing darkness, but because Roman Reigns is systematically eliminating every other option. That's not storytelling. That's creative hostage-taking. WWE is holding Jey's character development ransom to service Roman's storyline, and their betting fans will be too emotionally invested to stop watching. And you know what the worst part is? It's probably going to work. Fans will hate-watch the heel turn. They'll argue in comments sections. They'll create engagement metrics that justify WWE's decision. The company will point to social media numbers and claim success, completely ignoring that they've destroyed a beloved character's journey for temporary buzz. It's the WWE playbook: sacrifice long-term storytelling for short-term attention. But let's dig deeper into Roman's psychology here, because understanding his character is key to understanding why this is happening. The tribal chief doesn't just want family loyalty. He needs it. His entire identity is built on being the alpha, the head of the table, the one everyone acknowledges. When Jey broke free, it didn't just remove a soldier from Roman's army. It challenged the fundamental premise that you can't escape the bloodline. Roman can't let that stand. Not because he misses Jey, but because Jey's independence makes Roman look weak. So Roman's countermove is forcing Jey back, but doing it in a way that reasserts total dominance. If Jey comes back voluntarily, broken and heel, it proves Roman was right all along. It proves the bloodline is inescapable. It proves the tribal chief always wins. That's why this potential storyline is so important to Roman's character and so devastating to Jey's. WWE has been masterfully laying groundwork for this turn, even if casual fans haven't noticed. Jey's promos have contained subtle references to family obligation. His matches have shown him struggling with aggressive instincts. His backstage segments feature him looking torn, conflicted, like someone fighting internal demons. These aren't accidents. These are seeds being planted for the inevitable heel turn that's coming. The question isn't whether Jey will turn heel. At this point, that seems nearly guaranteed. The question is whether WWE can execute this turn in a way that feels organic rather than manipulative. Can they make fans understand Jey's decision rather than just resent it? Can they preserve some element of his character growth even as he descends back into villainy? Or will they just flip a switch, turn him heel, and expect fans to forget everything that came before? Based on WWE's recent track record with character development, I'm not optimistic. They've shown repeatedly that they value shock over substance, moments over storytelling, and social media reactions over coherent narratives. A Jey Uso heel turn checks all those boxes. It'll generate buzz. It'll create debate. It'll keep the Bloodline storyline going for another year. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. Because once again, WWE is choosing the easy path over the meaningful one. They're choosing to repeat familiar dynamics rather than explore new territory. They're choosing to undermine character growth rather than honor it. And they're choosing to send a deeply problematic message about family, abuse, and escape rather than telling a story that might actually inspire people. The most frustrating aspect is that alternatives exist. WWE could tell a story where Jey stays strong as a babyface while still being tested by family loyalty. They could explore the complexity of maintaining boundaries with toxic relatives without turning Jey villainous. They could use this storyline to show that breaking free is possible, healing is real, and independence doesn't mean abandoning family, it means establishing healthy relationships on your terms. But that requires nuance, patience, and creative courage WWE rarely demonstrates. It's easier to turn Jey heel, pop a rating, and move on. The company will sacrifice everything that made Jey's journey special because they're addicted to short-term gains over long-term storytelling. And fans will be left wondering why they invested emotionally in a character arc that ultimately meant nothing. Here's the reality: Roman Reigns may be pushing for a Jey Uso heel turn because that's what serves his character and keeps the bloodline fresh. WWE may be facilitating this turn because they don't know how else to book Roman or trust anyone else to carry the company. And Jey himself might be turning heel because he's a company guy who does what's asked, even when it undermines years of character work. None of that makes it right. None of that makes it good storytelling. And none of that changes the fact that WWE is about to betray every fan who believed in Jey Uso's liberation story. They're teaching viewers that escape is temporary, abusers always win, and family loyalty means surrendering your identity. Is that the lesson we want wrestling to teach? This is why independent wrestling coverage matters. When WWE makes decisions that sacrifice character for convenience, someone needs to call it out. When the Bloodline storyline becomes more important than the individuals within it, someone needs to say that's wrong. When Roman Reigns' dominance comes at the cost of everyone else's development, someone needs to demand better. Ringmaster Hub won't sugarcoat this. If WWE turns Jey Uso heel after everything he's been through, it's creative bankruptcy. It's lazy storytelling. It's the company admitting they care more about maintaining status quo than telling meaningful stories. And it's a betrayal of everyone who supported Jey's journey toward independence and healing. Comment below, do you think Jey Uso's heel turn is inevitable? Are you tired of the Bloodline storyline dominating WWE? Do you believe characters can actually grow in modern WWE, or is everything cyclical? Share this video if you're frustrated with WWE's creative direction. Subscribe to Ringmaster Hub for wrestling coverage that doesn't ignore the hard truths. The conversation starts here.